In this video, we're going to be talking about something called strain, and if that word doesn't mean anything to you, let me give you the rubber band analogy. Imagine you're holding a rubber band between your fingers. When you pull this rubber band apart and it stretches, that stretching is called strain. Now, if you mark two dots on the rubber band about an inch apart, and you stretch the rubber band so the dots are about 2 inches apart, the rubber band or material has experienced 100% strain. It has doubled its length. Strain measurement is just tracking how much a material stretches compared to its original length. In engineering, materials, etc., we don't just care that a material stretches, we want to know exactly how much. This is because materials can perform vastly different at different strains. Tensile testing, we essentially do the same thing with plastics, metals, carefully measuring how much we're stretching the material and how much load or force we're applying to that material to stretch it. This strain measurement tells us if a material will stay in its elastic deformation, so when I stretch and let go, it'll bounce back to its original shape, or I stretch that material so much that I'm now in the plastic region, where it either deforms the shape, the original shape, or fails and rips, which I'm kind of scared to do that right now. So why does this matter? If a bridge cable stretches, will it return back to its original shape or cause structural damage that might then endanger people driving on that bridge? If a medical implant in somebody's body experiences that strain or stretching during movement of their joints, how will this implant last years and 2 years over time? Strain measurement lets us quantify how strong a material is, how it stretches with an applied load compared to its original length, and this measurable data is what lets us predict how something will perform in the earlier design stages to keep people safe when we use that material in the real world. Strain is measured using an extensometer, whether it's the contact extensometer like I've shown in a lot of shorts on my channel, or So if you think about the lab's cubed automated system, they use a fluorescent ink that gets stamped onto the gauge length of the sample. And so the video extensometer is able to look at those markings and track them throughout the test. And then a contact extensometer gets put directly onto the sample, clamped on, and it measures how much a part stretches by directly stretching with the sample. I think it's worth me mentioning or defining exactly what gauge length means. Usually in tensile testing, based on the standards, it's like this dog bone dumbbell shape. The gauge length is that little straight piece in the center and is the only section of that sample where we care about measuring the strain. So for the sake of the rubber band that I showed earlier, it would be in between those two dots. We don't care about how that rubber band stretches outside of those two dots. Usually contact extensometers are used for materials that are not going to stretch as much in comparison to the video extensometry, which would be more ideal for your rubbers, polyurethanes, very high strains, able to stretch upwards of 200 or 300% of their original gauge length. Without an extensometer on the specimen itself, you're essentially measuring the movement of your entire testing machine, not just the material. So you can't really see the real story of how that specific piece of material is actually deforming or stretching. And so the key point here that I'm trying to highlight, especially through the stress strain curves, is that approximating stretching or strain of a material using the actual moving parts of the machine that are performing the test means that you're measuring everything in the system. But when you use an actual extensometer, you're measuring only that material. You're not measuring how the machine is moving, and you're able to actually capture true behavior behavior when it's being pulled in that tensile test. For a technical conference, I gave a presentation comparing a manual tensile testing system to an automated system. I tested 2 different 3D printed TPU samples, one with rectilinear 100% infill and one with concentric 100% infill at a 0.2mm layer height, 0.4mm nozzle, and the default print settings of 95A TPU on the Bamboo Lab X1C. At the time of these tests, for the manual system, I did not have access to an extensometer that would be able to capture the full strain range of TPU being stretched at 500mm per minute. So, for the purpose of experimentation and to make a point as to why you shouldn't use this method, we normalized crosshead displacement based on the known starting gauge length of the tensile sample and then plotted that as the strain for our stress strain curve of the manual tensile result. Now I want to show you why this is a bad idea, why it doesn't work. The manual setup was, as you may be familiar with a lot of my shorts content, put it in the tensile machine, load it in the chucks, set it up on the software, run it, and then raw data is exported through a CSV file. Automated samples were tested on the Labs Cubed Cube 1 system. This is a purpose-built tensile tester specifically for rubbers following the ASTM D412 standard or ISO 37. If you're interested, I'll leave this on the screen so you can pause and read it. Essentially, it's just the cycle time and workflow steps for each of these processes. So here are the rectilinear samples, and for the most part, the figure 4a picture and figure 4b picture have similar shapes in the curve, but when you take a little bit of a closer look, there are key differences. 4a is the stress strain curves of 3 of the rectilinear tensile samples tested on the automated approach. Notice how the curves end right before the 500% strain mark. If you look at the manual graph, the graph where strain was approximated based on crosshead displacement and not based on actual extensometer measurements, strain extends beyond 800%. Even though these are the exact same samples, the readings in my manual system, because I use this approximated approach, are way overshot. At the end of the day, I trust the results from the automated system more. In terms of maximum stress, or the peak amount of stress that the sample was able to undergo, they're about the same. This is because for maximum stress on the manual system, I'm using a calibrated load cell, so I can trust that measurement, but I can't trust the strain one because I'm not using an extensometer. There's no way for me to track the actual strain or deformation of that gauge length when I use the crosshead. Now, these are the concentric samples. This is where it's visually clear you should not use crosshead displacement as a replacement for extensometer measurements. Again, figure 5a are the automated tensile testing results, and figure 5b are those approximated via crosshead displacement in the manual approach. So as we see in these photos here, I want to make this key note because it's directly shown in the automated tensile curve. For the concentric samples, let's quickly look back at the toolpath. Concentric just essentially offsets the outer wall over and over and over again to fill in the part, and in this toolpath there's a very clear seam down the middle where the voids exist. Now, due to the way that these samples were printed, there was some under extrusion in the center of the gauge length region where the 2 walls in the middle did not bond well together, and so you can see in all 3 of these samples they split right down the middle. This could have been improved by increasing flow. These were just printed using default settings. What I observed in these samples while tensile testing at 500mm per minute, as the part stretches, the center starts to delaminate at the gauge length region, so now I'm essentially pulling 2 separate lengths. You can see it how it looks like the tensile samples have 2 legs and how one of the legs is longer. What was observed was that the center of the gauge length delaminates, one of the halves rips off, and then the tensile test continues with the other half gauge length. And so we see this performance directly specifically in the automated tensile curve. You have a, as expected, TPU tensile curve with strain at about 4 something, less than 450. You have that drop off point and a little bit more of that elongation continuing between that 450 to just under 600 mark. The drop off and then continuation is noticeably seen in the gray and light blue curves, C2 and C3. Looking at C2 and C3, they have that one longer leg. C1 on the other hand had more of a cleaner fracture. What I'm trying to reiterate here is the importance of using testing equipment that is built specifically for the material you want to test. TPU in this case is a rubber-like material. It's able to stretch clearly above 300% of its original gauge length. So with the automated solution, it's purpose-built for that type of material, as well as the standard we're using, and it has the proper extensometer tools, a video extensometer, so that the full strain range can be measured. And so what I see in the failures of each of these samples reflects directly in the stress strain curve from the automated system, where in my manual tests where strain is approximated solely by crosshead, no extensometer, look at the curve, it looks exactly like the rectilinear one, and it fails to capture the clearly unique failure zones of this 3D printed toolpath. And so when you're making custom materials, or you're testing different 3D printer slicer settings, or even in general, you just want a solution with the proper strain measurements so that your stress strain curves and the data you extract actually makes sense with respect to the performance of the material. I mean, looking at the manual test here, we've got elongation again close to 800, where in the automated tests, the sample readings cut off right before 600. Because the load cell was just fine in the manual test, the maximum stress is the only truly reliable value I can pull out of these manual tests. Hopefully this little mechanical testing rant made sense and opened your eyes as to why things are done a certain way when it comes to tensile testing. Now, let me know if you would like me to post the full presentation of the manual versus automated tests and results. In this video, I just kind of showed a snapshot of some of the results to support the topic, but I can post the full one if you're interested. And by all means, I know we have experts in the audience, so if I missed something or you'd like to add to this conversation, please feel free to include your insights in the comments down below. All right, I'll catch you in the next one.